We're live and we are building out a ticketing system. Today, we're going to be covering a topic called subforms. Now, uh, I've become familiar with this term, subforms. It comes from the old days of Access, where they would actually have a control called a subform, where you've got a parent-child relationship between a one record, a one. So you've got a one-to-many relationship in a relational database is the one end of the one to many relationship. And the many, let's say a customer has many orders, or in our case, where we have on this screen, let me bring up this screen and make it bigger so you guys can see it. And we go over to notes. So right here, we already have a one to many relationship between users that are leaving notes on a ticket. So you could have a ticket and then those notes. This could be called a subform. I really wouldn't call it a subform. When we do assignments today, which is what we're going to do here in this video, we're actually going to tackle this, and it's going to look more like a subform, what you would call a subform. So that's what we'll be talking about today. Now, yesterday we went over here to the office use, and we finished up this screen. And so this would probably be, we're getting close to being done with this main screen. This is the main screen of the whole application. So this is the most important screen so far, and it might be the most important screen in the whole application. And let's take a look at our entity relationship diagram. This application that we're building, requests is right here in the middle. Now we'll be dealing with assignments today, as you guys know. So we'll be dealing with this particular table here. Okay. And then I also need to show you guys the document. So if we go over to Google Docs and bring up the our application here that we've been building. And if I scroll down, it's around page 9. Now this link is going to be in the Facebook group. Okay, so you guys have access to all of this. And by the way, we see Sock Gat. Hopefully I pronounced your name right. Hello for Athens, Greece. Awesome. Thanks for saying hi. Yeah. So these are all the user stories that we have for the application that we're building. So here for the customer, the requester, as a customer, I want to enter ticket details. As I'm filling out a ticket, I want to be able to want my information to be automatically populated, default requester. So we're sort of knocking out these user stories as we go along. And whenever we finish this screen, after we're done with this one, we'll be going back to that document and looking at what user story that we want to address and knock out next. Okay. So I will be monitoring the comment section of this live stream as I'm going live this Saturday morning and looking for any questions, comments. And we have Bry Sunnook. Hi from sunny Sheffield. Awesome. Thanks for saying hi. I'm glad you guys are with me. All right. All right. So when a request comes in, a ticket comes in, what we want to do is actually assign it to a technician, somebody that's actually going to do the work. And Gerald is here. Hi, Gerald. Gerald's from Canada. Thanks for joining me, guys. As a ticket comes in, we actually need to assign it to a technician that's going to do the work. And as that ticket matures and that ticket is perhaps there's several steps in that ticket. Let's say it's an employee onboarding. Okay, have you ever thought about that? So we could have an employee onboarding ticket that comes in. Hey, Data is King is here. Awesome. And Sandra, hi from South Africa. Hi, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. I know during the week I do live streams on my lunch break, and sometimes there's sort of, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do them. And but here on Saturdays, there's much more. Oh, from India. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for saying hi, guys. All right. So let's say an onboarding task comes in and it's assigned to HR. So we need to onboard a new employee. Okay. Now that could involve IT. They might need some computer equipment, but let's say there's several things that need to happen and several technicians need to be involved. Well, this ticket could be assigned from person to person. It could be assigned to all kinds of different people. Well, we need a good record of those assignments, which is what we're going to do here on this screen. Okay, so I know the first thing that we need to do for our assignments tab, so that is selected there. Now, the question is, do we have a container for this tab, this assignments tab? So I'm clicking here, and it looks like what I have selected here is actually the shape, and it doesn't look like we have that container yet. So to add a container, I'm going to go over here to the plus sign. I'm going to go down into layout. Okay, I'm going to add a container, and I'm going to name this CNT. I believe is the prefix that Microsoft recommends for containers. So we'll say container CNT, and we'll say request assignments. Okay. And what's great about containers is that we can set the container up to be shown or hidden based on what tab is selected, and all the controls in there will follow suit. They'll be shown and hidden as well. So Barna, hi Barna, thanks for joining us. All right, so we have that. All right, so if I go back over to the tree view, I'm going to select that container. I'm going to go down into the view, the visible property. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably borrow this from another container real quick. I just clicked on this container. Now that says container one. What container is that? If I go over to the visible, this is what I want to copy, this office use. So while I'm here, I noticed that this one isn't named. So I'm just going to CNT ticket office use. Make sure that's named. Okay. And up here for visible, instead of, and I'm just pasted that in, instead of office use, I'm going to call this assignments. Okay. So we'll have that there. Now, whenever we add new controls, we always want to make sure that our menu's on top, because right now, if I clicked on assignments and clicked on our menu, sometimes it appears in front of the menu. So always make sure the menu's on the top. Then I go find the spinner group, and I make sure that's on top. Okay. All right. So I know that we do want to have a gallery. That's going to be our sub part of the subform. So let's go grab a good gallery we can use. And we'll probably want to grab a gallery that's got some headings. Okay, so I'm going to click around and find, let me look inside of our different tabs here. Okay. And let's look at new screen. Okay. Screen. Okay. I'm going to go down. My default screen to go to is copy controls from here. And I'm going to grab this gallery here. What other things might we need for that little tab there? Probably a text box. Okay. Probably a combo box. Now I might copy some controls that we already have on that screen. I'm going to copy those two things at the very least. And I'm looking at the comments here. So Data is King says, is it better to have the customer select the technician to work on the ticket or have technician choose the open tickets? That's a great question. So let me address that here in a moment. Let me make sure I've got this stuff pasted over. I'm going to go over to assignments. Make sure that container is selected before we do a control V. Okay. Very good. We've got all this in here. Yeah, so if I enter if I'm a customer, I come in here and I want to enter a ticket, should the customer be able to assign the ticket? And the question is no. And that is the whole reason why we had this suggested technician. Let me tell you a story where I worked at a place. I'm not going to name any names or any employers, okay? But I worked at a place, and I was a software developer there, okay? We had a whole networking team of 5 or 6 people that handled management of servers. They handled any type of routers and cabling, password resets, all that type of stuff that didn't have to deal with individual people's workstations. So the workstation, there was a whole group of technicians that handled workstation issues. So if a user had an issue with their hardware, then they would handle that. And then the networking team would handle a lot of the other things, including hardware that was in the server room. Okay. So the networking team, had a lot of my respect. They knew a lot of do, and I've done some of that work in my career myself, and I know enough about it to really have a lot of respect for those guys because there's a lot of things that they need to know, and pretty much their job is to put out fires a lot of times, as well as the workstation people. But the extent of their knowledge really impresses me, and and a lot of times I feel the feeling is mutual. They don't want to have anything to do with coding or developing applications. But one of the things they do is if there's an issue with a server, they would be the people that would reboot the server, and a lot of times they trusted me. They gave me full access to production servers to go in and make any tweaks to the web server from my ASP.NET applications, SQL Server. So I knew more about SQL Server and IIS servers than that team did at this particular job. That's not at every place, but I managed enough servers to know what needed to be done. But there was a particular user. He was a techie type of guy, and he did some coding himself, and he had his own little application on one of the servers, and he would message me through Teams or through Skype. I'm like, "Hey, Darren, can you reboot this server? Something's not right." Or, "Hey, can you do this on the server?" And I was almost like a tier 3 support. So if there was somebody had an issue, they'd go to the service desk, call them, enter a ticket, and it would be either assigned a workstation or they go to networking. And within the networking, they would try to fix the problem before it even got to me. Because I was busy developing applications, and he would message me all the time. I'm like, "Hey, man, just to let you know, if there's anything to be done, a ticket must be created." And he's like, all right. So he would fill out a ticket and he would put in the description, Darren needs to reboot the server. That wasn't my job description. And not only that, but should even though the networking team trusted me enough to reboot the servers, or actually they trusted me enough not to reboot the servers, put it that way. Um, if they trusted me enough to have access to do things with servers, that doesn't mean that I should do things that I know I shouldn't do. Okay, for example, if something needs to be done with these servers, this guy was asking me, he would put that in the ticket. Darren needs to reboot the server. The service desk technician, which was a completely different group of people, they'd be the people sort of manning this at an application like this. They see an email request come in and they would try to direct it to the right person, but they see somebody's name. Oh, that cuts out a lot of work from them. They don't have to research, oh, well, who handles this type of thing? It says right there, Darren Neese. All right, we'll just assign it to them. Um, is it needed to go to the networking team, and I really didn't care for this person messaging me all the time through chat, interrupting my typical workday and asking me to do something that really another team should have done. And they needed to be in the communication loop and stuff. So I would say absolutely not to this question. It's better to have the customer select the technician. No, they'll have favorite people that they like to work with. So, for example, that guy liked me. He liked working with me. He didn't want to deal with the networking team, perhaps. Maybe they were like, why does that need to be rebooted? And perhaps I would understand more of software development that I'm like, oh, something weird is going on with the process on that server. So maybe restarting the process where the networking team may not have known that. Of course, the knowledge varies from technician to technician, but really that team needed to sort of take that on and research it, and probably to handle it, and it wouldn't even be an issue for me. So um, that's why we added this suggested technician in here on this first screen. So somebody like that could put my name, but when somebody comes in here, it's like, oh no, he likes to assign things to Darren, but really it should go to Pete. Okay, so hopefully that answers that question. Data is king. And I got a few more comments here. This looks amazing. I'm new to Powerapps and struggling to make a form where user chooses some filters and is presented with multiple results. Any advice? Yeah, that's probably gonna be something that we could cover in a different video. I'm trying to think of videos I've already done that I could direct you to. Make a form where the user chooses some filters presented with multiple results. Now, when you say form, are you I think maybe you're not talking about a form like the Power Apps form. And in fact, when I talk about subforms today, I'm not talking about the Power Apps form either myself. it seems like what you're talking about is a gallery, okay? And you need to filter that gallery based on user input, okay? Okay, so Caroline, here is an example that I can show you. If you go into application administration, okay, and we'll go down into, it's one of these, I think it was categories. This actually is a perfect example. So we did this probably 2 or 3 videos ago. If you go look at the playlist, and all those links are in the description, video description here. All right, so these are all categories of tickets that somebody could select for a ticket, okay? And this is entered and filtered based on the different departments. So human resources might have all kinds of stuff, okay? So for example, sexual harassment, did I spell that right? I don't know. What I do is I Google words that I want, and I did not spell it right. Okay, so I'm gonna copy and paste that over. With the use of computers, you sort of get away from maybe being a better speller that I probably would have been 10 or 20 years ago. Okay. So sexual harassment active on, we'll save that. So, and so another one might be, let's click on add new, and we'll say employee onboarding, and we'll add employee onboarding. So those are two. So if they select a IT type of ticket when they're entering it, they're going to get these four. Okay. Now, if they select an HR, they're going to get these two. Okay. So this is a good example, Caroline, of having a gallery, a listing of data that's being filtered based on user input, the user input being a drop down list. So if you have more of a question of that, I believe I actually, let me check to make sure this. There's actually a link for this video. Go down to the video description. There's a link of how to enter. If there's more details you want me to go over, there's a little Microsoft form that I have that you fill out, and it's going to be added to my database, my SharePoint list. And I actually have a Powerapps app that manages all those entries. And when I have an idea to do a new video, then I'll actually tackle that. You'll put in your email address so I can actually email like, hey, I just answered your question in this video. Check it out. Okay. All right. So I'm going to keep going here. Victorino, hi from Mozambique. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Thanks for joining us this morning. All right. Data is king. Caroline has a video. Yeah. Victorino, I would like to know how to make a lookup column filter in a form. Okay. And we do lookups from time to time. So if you don't find what you're looking for here in this video, go down the video description and enter that form. And when I'm looking to make a new video, I'll use that. So Caroline, thank you so much. It had me stumped. All right. Well, I'm glad to have helped you with that. All right. So let's go back over here. Okay. And let's deal with these assignments. So we've got a good gallery here. Something else that I like to do, now don't be scared when I hit this button. There's all kinds of things that pop up here. I'm going to select this rectangle. I'm sorry, this the shape, the square there, and paste it inside of my container. And I use these little squares to sort of space out. It sort of guides how I place the controls. Very useful. Down there, and I'll get a fourth one down there. And you'll see how that is helpful in a moment. So if I were to select that now, if I move this text box around, you'll see these little these guiding lines will actually snap to those little rectangles that I added. All right. And Chandra, I am Mohan. Looking forward for another interesting thing. Okay, well, glad you're here. Hopefully Powerapps is that next interesting thing, or this is the next interesting thing within Powerapps that you're looking to learn. All right, very good. Well, thanks for joining me today, guys. And so I'm going to size this, position this gallery. Okay, and so each row in here will be an assignment. Okay. Now at the top, what we're going to do is we're going to have some fields that will allow us to add and edit the details down in the gallery. Okay. So something else I'd like to have in here is a label for these different buttons and these controls here. And if I go over, click around, what you'll notice is like these type of, I think I might actually copy that one. I like that one better than the one I just created. Okay. Both of these, something like 250. Okay. Control S, save early, save often. Okay. So let's go look at our database diagram. So we have request assignment. So we're gonna assign this to a particular technician. Okay, and I'm gonna zoom in on this so you guys can see this better. Okay. So we're gonna have a title, a request ID. So a lot of these are foreign keys that point to other database tables. Okay. And then you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a little bit of a screenshot so I can have this on another screen as I'm building out this screen. So I can sort of reference it, make sure I'm not forgetting any fields or anything. Okay. All right, so go back over. Now I know on our ticket info tab that we had these things here. So I'm going to click on this little requester field. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go over to assignments and paste it in there. Okay, so we've got that. All right, so that's the main thing that we need to have in there. So requester. Okay. Okay, so again, I'm looking at this ERD diagram that's on the other screen here. And a lot of these things that we're going to set ourselves with our code, our expression, when we click on the save button. But some of these things we actually do need controls for. So the person, so like the request ID, we're going to grab that from the ticket. Request subject, grab that from the ticket. So we're not going to give the ability for a user to actually modify those things. Assign to name, assign to ID. That's going to be in this combo box. We're going to grab that from the combo box. Okay. The department ID, that's going to be taken from the department gallery that we have on the first tab. Okay. Now, notes, we can have notes for the assignment. Like, hey, I assigned this to Darren because he knows the most about managing an IIS server, something like that. That would probably be good. We might say it could be justification for the assignment. Could be. Like, why was this assigned to this person? Needs approval. Okay. And keep notified. So let's say it gets assigned to me and then I assign it to someone else. Like, hey, this is a better person. They know a lot more about this particular topic. I'm going to assign it to them. And I could actually type that this is why I'm assigning it to this person. And then I could have a little toggle or a check mark that says, hey, keep me notified. So as that ticket is being worked on, the progress is being made or it's completed, I want to know about it because perhaps I need to go do something whenever it's done. Okay. All right. So let's keep all that in mind. So the main thing that needs the main piece of information for these records down here will be who we're assigning it to. So we're going to say person assigned. Okay. Up here. Very good. So got that control. And we could have this one for the notes. Reason assigned. Okay. Now we could make this wider. We want to allow them to have plenty of space in there to type. Okay. But let's get the other controls on here first. So we've got that. Okay, reason assigned, department, notes, needs approval, and keep notified. All right. So I think what we'll do is we'll tackle the whole approval. Let's say somebody asks for a laptop, and a laptop purchase needs an approval from managers. It needs an approval from the person requesting, their manager. We might need an approval from the COO or the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, depending upon the size of the organization. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the whole all that to a later stage in the application with approvals, because we'll want to sort of dissect that and think about that all in itself, and think about all the different screens and the processes, the workflows, emails that need to go out, all regarding that. And so we will tackle that whole feature as a whole later on. Okay. So I won't do anything there. However, to stay notified, I need to go get, I like toggles. What do you guys like better? You guys like checkboxes or toggles better? All right. So, Sharias, hopefully I pronounced that right. He just want to let you know that some of your tutorials helped me a bunch, and I was able to complete my own version of a ticketing system recently. Awesome. Well, you know what? That's the whole purpose of this. That's so glad to hear that. Comments like that make my day. So thank you so much for sharing that. So got how do you link requester from ticket info tab and assignment tab? I mean, if we change in one place, then change the second control. Yeah, absolutely. So over here, we've got the requester, the person affected. Um, yeah. So you're going to see how we do that here in a few minutes from the ticket info tab. Okay. So right now, what I want to do when they actually assign it, I might actually say suggest a technician. Um, in my experience, when the user is asking for a particular technician to do something, maybe I just had a weird experience. Okay. So that's why it's good that we're all talking about this, and you guys can share your experience if any of you work in IT yourselves. But how you would do that, you know, a lot of controls have a default, okay? And you can actually set up some logic in that default that will actually select a record or something from another control, or even a record from the database. So that's how you would do that. And you know, if your question isn't answered somewhere in this video here, if you don't mind filling out that MS form and tell me more about what you're looking for. But that's essentially how we would do that. Okay, we would set up another control's default to sort of be looking at this other control. Okay, um, and we might actually do that here. We might do that. Okay, so Gerald says prefer checkboxes because I'm less familiar with toggles, but I think toggles offer better utility. Okay, very good. Thanks for that input. Me personally, I sort of like the toggles, but if you prefer it, and everybody's building out their own version of this application, right? So pick the one that you like the best. I found here recently the toggles are sort of I've been in the industry for a while. I'm really used to checkboxes. I sort of like the whole toggle thing, and I think users sort of gravitate towards that. It's more of a updated UI. Um, but I like the fact that we have both to choose from. Okay, and then what we'll do for the text here, for a toggle, we have something called a false text. Don't notify me. Um, Now, this sort of begs the question here: if a user selects this, do we want them? I'm going to say keep technician notified. Yeah, I'm going to do that there because if I'm a technician, other than the technician being assigned, I could go into my assignment and I say, "Hey, I want to be notified." Um, what we could do is have another toggle up here at this top here. So if somebody else, a coworker in my department want to be, they might want to stay notified of something. They could have that there. Um, I believe so. Think through this with me, guys. So if I'm assigned a ticket, I really should get a notification when I'm assigned a ticket. Okay. Whether somebody toggles this on or off, because I may not be the person making that assignment. A lot of times you're not. Okay. Um, so I'm thinking this notification thing probably should be at the top. That anybody could come in here and they can see whatever is visible to them and they can say, hey, keep me notified. Perhaps it's the manager, the person actually requesting this. Now, what we do have we have the ticket information. We've got person affected, and then we have the requester, and we've gone into a lot of details about what the difference between those two are. Now, those two should be notified. So I'm thinking that I might need to have that up here. Um, and if any of you are familiar with SSRS, SQL Server Reporting Services, it always came with this thing like, "Hey, keep me alerted," or like, "Send me a copy of this every day." So you could go into a screen and say, "Hey, send me," sort of like you're subscribing to an RSS feed, um, sort of like that. I think in this case, I don't want the text of the toggle being changed, whether it's true or false. Okay, so I'm going to take that out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a label here, paste it out here. And let's make this maybe something 300. And we'll align it to the right side. And we'll say, keep me send notifications. Okay. And then we could maybe not make that so wide. Okay. That over here. We zoom in. Now, do you guys agree with that? Do you guys think that the whole notification um, had this keep notified bit in here? And what I think originally I was thinking is like, oh, I might want to stay notified on a ticket after I was assigned to it. But if we have something like this where they could go in, they're going to be notified that they're assigned to it. They could just go in here and either check or uncheck this, toggle it on or toggle it off. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And the height of these two are not the same. I'm going to make sure the height of the toggle is 30. So now these things should line up a lot easier. Okay. Now, just the change in what I'm thinking for this little feature here is that will change our database tables. Okay. So let's work on this subform for assignments. After we get that done, um, we very may well have time to finish this up here. But whenever we do that, we need to update our project description, our project documentation here. We need to add a user story for that. And we also need to go over here to this database diagram and add in perhaps a request notifications table. Okay. So we'll tackle that later. Okay. So just based on this, I think we might be good with these two fields for the assignments. Okay. So this has a height of 40. Now, a lot of times, whenever you sort of size out a text box, sometimes it will either grow or shrink the height of it, or the height changes in some way. So I'll look at the height and make sure the height is the same. So we're looking good there. And then I'm going to use my little squares here and make sure that I spaced everything out properly. There we go. All right. Now, I think what we might want to have for this gallery is that we'll want to have some type of heading, okay, for this subform. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab a new rectangle and make sure that that container is selected. I'll say rectangle. That's down. And typically the headers, you want those to be maybe 40. Okay. And then I'll dynamically size this little header, um, column header background to be dynamically positioned and sized based on that gallery below. So I'm going to go get the name of this gallery. Right now it's gallery one underscore 16. We need to give that a more meaningful name. So it's a GAL for a gallery. We're going to say ticket, the ticket screen. Okay. And then we'll say here, assign assignments. That's good. I have to think about it. All right. So we got the name of that. Now for this rectangle, for the X, it's going to be the exact same X as gallery. And same thing for the Y. But we'll need to add, we'll need to subtract height of this rectangle from it. Okay. So I'll say self.height. Okay. So that positions it just right. Now the width will be the width of the gallery. Right. There we go. Now, does the color look a little weird? Because it does. It sort of clashes with our color scheme. So we're going to say in our var theme primary dark. Okay. And then we're also going to look at our border and make sure our border color is the exact same thing as self.fill. Okay. So this is starting to look a lot better. So I'm thinking we'll have the exact same thing. We'll have a person assigned, and then we'll have the reason assigned here as well. So let's add over a nice little label that we'll put in here. We'll give it a color of white so it stands out a little bit there. Now I'm going to use that rectangle here. Right now it's rectangle 6. And I think Microsoft likes us to prefix our shapes with its SHP. If you wanted to name your rectangle, like say, oh, it's really a rectangle object, so we say REC, but a lot of times that is confused with a record. So say, I think I'm going to stick with SHP. That's actually the Microsoft standard. SHP ticket assignments header. Very good. I'm going to select the name of that. And then for this little label here, we'll make sure the X is lined up there. Make sure the Y is set up. Go off of that. And I think from here, we probably want a little bit of a left padding. Let's make that 15. Okay, so it looks good. And we'll say, now for headings, I always like to have capital letters here. So person signed, put that in there. And we probably want this to be quite a bit more wide. What is the width of our combo box. It is 320. Let's do the same thing down here. 120. Okay. Now, what do you guys think of the size of the font here? Probably like to make that a little bigger. Let's see what that looks like. That looks good. Okay. All right. And then down here inside the gallery, this label, I want this to be dynamically positioned in size based on the heading. Okay, so this little label here we'll call label ticket assignment header. And then down for this one here for the X, that will be that label dot X, and then we'll need to subtract the parent gallery. Okay. Now, if you guys are new with me and like, whoa, what are you doing? So this is something I do in all my applications. And so we are probably on video 22. Okay. And I stepped through a lot of this much slower in my previous videos. So that's why I'm sort of going by it quick. So many of you are already familiar with this. So I'm just going over a little more quicker. Okay, so for the width, I'm gonna grab the width of that label there. Okay, and I'm gonna make sure that height is set up to be let height. Yeah, that's good there. All right, so I'm gonna hit Control S. And okay. Let's actually wire this gallery up to look at the right table. Okay. So we're going to be looking at let's go into site contents and find the table name. Should be request assignments. And it is. There's no data in there yet. Okay. So for data source, I'm just going to paste the name in there. Okay. Now this label is already sort of airing out because it's not really what it wants to see here. And I think for now I'm just going to say title because I know there's a title column in there because I don't want to deal with any errors at the moment. So because there's no data in there, guys, we're going to assign the ticket to someone and enter a reason, and then we'll have a save button that will save it in there. Okay. In fact, I believe we're going to need two buttons. One for saying, hey, I want to add a new one, and another one saying, okay, now I need to save. Okay. So let me show you how that should work. If we go over here to application administration, and let's say, for example, go into this request categories that we looked at a little while ago. We want this type of thing. We want a little add new and we want a little save button. Okay, so I'm actually going to copy those. Now, whenever you copy and paste controls over from a screen that already has some functionality already in there, you want to be careful that you sort of clear out that code so you don't have any residual stuff from a different screen. Okay, paste that in over. Okay, and we'll move this over. I'll go get my little square there, copy and paste that. Okay. All right, so what I'll do is I'll go into, I think I'll leave this for now because we will need a patch statement. Okay. Now, somebody asked, how do we set something up from another control? And I think we could do that here on the first time around. So for person assigned, what do we have for default? So for a combo box, we have a default, which is not set. Default selected items, because a combo box could have multiple items in there. Okay. So we'll look at this. Okay. Now, how we do assignments, as we did on the first tab, is we use this Office 365 users connector. Okay. And we did a search based on what they had typed in there. Okay. All right. So this is what we have. So default, if nobody is selected, we actually set up the first person. I actually do like that. So if this is a new assignment, perhaps more than likely the first person doing anything with it might be the very technician that needs to do something with it. Okay. So I think I might leave that in there. And then what we could say in here is the person that was suggested was this other person. We could do something like that. Okay. And then the person assigned, let's name this text box here txt assignment reason. Okay. Let's make sure our combo box is edit ticket assignment. That's probably good just by itself there. Okay. So we do have this add new button here. And what this does is we'll say new assignment record. And that's what we'll use, new assignment record. So that is a context variable that lets our application know they're trying to enter a new record, and perhaps that save button will be enabled or disabled based on that, or we will put values in here based on that context variable. Okay, so we don't do anything there, but in here, okay, so we look at is blank. Okay, so in this case, we want to look at new assignment. If it's a new assignment, then we'll put the current user that's sitting there. Okay. Now we actually want to sort of initialize that variable though as well. And we'll initialize that variable whenever somebody comes into this screen. So for submit request screen, we have a bunch of initializing code in here. So we'll just put that in here. I guess I didn't put on my clipboard. That again. Control C. Very good. So, okay, so that's set up from the get-go. Whenever they come into the screen, okay, we'll have that. Okay, so if it's a new assignment, we'll select the current user. Then over here, we've got the default. How is this set up? Well, we don't have anything set up now. Okay, so if loc new assignment record, we'll put an empty string in there. Okay, otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to go down to that gallery, because if they click on an item in the gallery, we want that stuff to be brought up to the top. So we'll say, okay, there is our gallery, copy that. We'll say dot selected dot notes. Notes is what we're doing there. Okay, notes. Okay, now for this, let's put in some hint text. Okay. Reason
to assign this ticket. The person specified. Okay, do that there. You know what I think would be a good, we're talking about linking one control to another. Somebody had asked about that a few minutes ago. I think what I might do is like, oh, well, I'm not the person that, I don't want to be the person assigned. So I click on this X. And now look what it says. It says find items. That's not very helpful. So what I might do, over here in ticket info, we could grab this value, this person that was selected over here. Okay. So grab that combo box name. Over here, assignments. And instead of it saying find items, let's go see, yeah, input text placeholder. Instead of that, we could say that combo box dot selected. Let's see, dot selected. And then we'll grab display name. Look at that. So it doesn't select the person, but it lets us know. I don't like that name of that user, valued client. It was actually a let's make this Rubens. Okay, so you can tell it's actually a person's name in there. And then I might something else I like to do in a lot of my controls is give it a little bit more of a left padding. It sort of looks weird with no padding in there. Okay. All right, guys, I'm watching the comments. Watching for any questions or comments here on what I'm doing here. Okay, so let me see if I can find. Yeah. So Cat says, how do you link the requester from ticket info tab and the assignments tab? So that's what we just did. We linked like the default, what they see inside the control. So it sort of prompts someone and say, oh, look, if you can't think of anybody who you want to assign this to, maybe you should select this guy named Rubens. Yeah. So that's how you do that. I'm glad I was able to answer that. If not, let me know or fill out that MS form. All right. So we got these two things. I click on add. Okay, so it's a new one. So let's assign that right now to me. Okay. And then what we could do is we don't want them to be able to save if they haven't selected anything over here. So this combo box, that's the name. So I'm going to select that. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for the interaction here, guys. You guys interact with me. It makes it more fun for me, but probably people ask questions that other people are thinking about, but they're not actually asking. So it's definitely a win-win situation all the way around. All right. So we look and see, let's make sure that we have, let's do account rows on the selected items. And as long as that's greater than 0, we'll allow them to edit. All right, Gerald. Not loving hint text in person assigned suggesting Rubens because I think the user might believe that Rubens actually has been selected. Okay. You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that because this code that we're doing right now will sort of help them with that. Okay. Now it's something definitely to think about. Like we need to be thinking in the shoes of the people using this application. Okay. So right now I've been selected. Okay. But if I take that out, boom, they'll see this person, but they see they can't save anything. Like, what? Why? You know? And in fact, what we could do, because we're addressing that here. That's why I'm so glad you mentioned this, Gerald. Because no one is selected. Okay. Let's do something here. This person selected. Yeah. Ghosted save button. Perfect. Yeah. But I'm going to do you one better here, Rubens. I'm sorry, Rubens. Gerald. For this, for the color. Why isn't the color coming up here? There we go. All right. So as long as, we'll say if, as long as there's someone selected, we'll have that primary dark. Otherwise, we'll say maroon sort of get their attention. And then also for the text for this, okay, we can copy this here. And as long as it's fine, we'll say person assigned. And if it's not, we'll say required. How do you guys like that? Yeah. Agreed. Perhaps color prompt is most suitable. Okay. So, I always steer people away from using forms. And one of the things that forms gives you is this sort of built-in thing of like, oh, well, hey, that title field is required. So they try to hit the button to submit. They're like, hey, you can't save this until you do this. And it like circles things red. So this is a way to sort of create that feature that forms gives us. And you need to sort of know how to do that, what I just showed you here. If you're not using forms and you need to sort of do some data validation, make sure that things are being entered. Okay. Yeah. So we've got that. Now the question is, guys, do we want to make this other one required? And Gerald, you mentioned or maybe notify. I only like to use notify if it's absolutely necessary, if I don't have a better way of doing it. I don't like pop-ups, and I think pop-ups since since the late 19, was it 1997 and up to 2000, you got all these pop-up banners and people hate pop-ups. So notify, and of course, notify really isn't a pop-up, but it does pop up, not in the middle of the screen like a modal type of thing. There are reasons a lot of times I use notify for errors. And then you could say this is a type of error, but in that case, if we could make this enabled, and then if it's not, then you pop that thing up. So it's more of a preemptive thing. So yeah, just an idea. So you could do that instead. You're building out your version of the application. So if you guys aren't familiar, notify, use the notify function. It will actually make a little message appear at the top. Okay. All right. So let's say, agree color prompt is most suitable. Yeah. Very good. Okay. So my question to you guys is, should we make this reason assigned required? I'm going to say no, because let's say we get 100 tickets that come in a day, or maybe you have 100 tickets that come in every hour, and 50% of them are password resets. And you know that there's this guy that handles password resets all the time. And oh my goodness, that would really slow somebody down. It just sort of, so I'm just leave it as is. Now, what are we going to do whenever somebody actually is able to click on that save button? I'm going to go into on start. So we're going to say, what's the name of our database table? It's called request assignments. Okay, so that's what we're going to patch. Okay. So that's not our variable. If we're going to check to see if that local, what's the name of our local variable? Double click on that variable, loc new assignment record. We'll go over here. We'll check on that variable. If that is true, then we'll use defaults. Otherwise, we'll do the selected of the gallery. So down here, after we save it, we need to set that to false. So I'm going to paste that there. So it says as it is. Okay, so you agree. Very cool. Yeah. All right. So we got that. What else do we have going on here? We need to go grab the name of the gallery. Sort of like copying and pasting controls from other screens. It's like, oh yeah, I know I need a patch statement. I know I need to set my spinner on and then off and do all kinds of stuff. Will we know who assigned the person if the reason not given? Ooh, that's great. You just sort of spurred on a thought that I had here, which is, and the answer to your question is yes. So let's create a little business rule for our application here. The business rule is a little logical. What if this happens, then we're going to force something to happen. or we're going to make something happen a certain way. I think this is a great idea. You just if someone makes an assignment and then they don't enter the reason why, perhaps what we should do is we should go out and grab like who the current user is, and we'll say current user did not enter a reason. So that would be sort of like, okay, if you're going to enter without a reason, then that's gonna show up there. Okay. So thank you for that. So yeah. Okay, so we've got the name of the gallery, I think, on the clipboard. I'm going to paste it there. Now I know we've got a title. Actually, there's a lot of things that we're going to assign here. We don't have a sort order. And we don't have is active. However, we should have a column in here called active assignment, yes or no. It could have been assigned a dozen times, but who has the ball right now? And a lot of times the IT department, they sort of play a game of hot potato. This ticket comes in and gets assigned, and I don't want it, you take it. Like it's sort of annoying. So where's the potato at? Who has the ball? So we need to add that here. All right. So I'm going to click on this. Let's say add a column. I just want to look at these fields just to make sure I don't have something in here already. Okay. So currently assigned, you think? Got a bit field. Okay. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, and I'm going to save this. Now, guys, if you are in the Facebook group, you guys have a link to this diagram. So as I change it, you guys can go out and see all the latest changes that I've made to this. Okay. All right. Now, because I've added that, I need to go over here into this list and make that change. So I called it currently assigned. So what do you guys think so far?
Hey, if you're getting anything helpful out of this, a comment or even a like really helps the channel and lets people like you know this is good content. Much appreciated.
So currently assigned, I'm going to set this to be a yes, no Boolean field. Now the default, any new ones, I'll probably want that to be set to true. So I'll keep it that as is. Okay. And then over here, yeah, there it is. They're in alphabetical order. I don't know. Refresh that so it actually sees it here. Currently assigned. Okay. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to set that to be, if it's the newest assignment, I'm going to set that to be the new assignment. True. Okay, we should be good there. Department ID, we're going to grab that from this guy over here. So grab that. Okay. And then we also have, what else? We have a title. What do we want in the title? You know what I like? We could do is a user full name. we could say assigned whoever we assigned. This guy. Selected items. Selected. I like selected because it's only going to give us the one that was selected. Dot display name. I think what I like even better, because the most important thing about this record is who it was assigned to. So this was that. I'll put this over here. Signed by that person. Okay, I like that. And I try to make the title field unique. Okay. We say at. Put in now, that's going to give it a date timestamp. And that's going to be fairly unique there. Okay. All right, so we have a title. We have the request ID. Okay, so we'll grab loc record. Okay, and we'll grab the ID out of that. And down here, this save button has to deal with that. Yeah, loc record. That is the current ticket that we're dealing with. Okay, very good. All right, what else do we have? The request subject. Okay. Request subject. Now, what's important about this, so we're going to grab the subject line out of the current ticket for the assignments table. Why is that important? Well, if you're doing some type of a report based on all the active assignments, you wouldn't want to have to go do a lookup to go to the request table to go pull that. So that's the reason why I'm putting that in here. So we'll say loc record. Okay, grab that. All right, so who is it assigned to? Assigned to ID. Okay, and that's going to be that assignment dot selected. Now we're not going to have the user ID at this point. If you guys remember, whenever we did the save button, this is sort of whenever we have a people picker and how we're setting up this application, it's sort of a weird deal because we use a combo box and we go out and use the Office 365 users connector and go out and look at pretty much your active directory information, all the users in your organization. Now, not all those users are in our user table, okay? But we're storing stuff based on our user table, okay? Because of that, if you look at the save button, we do some stuff here. So we've got the suggest tech. We have this thing here. Let's look at, let's actually copy this because we need to do something very similar to what we did in the save button at the very bottom of the screen. I want to copy that. Okay. So before we actually save an assignment, we need to go up here. Okay. Does the person assigned exist in our users table? I would say most of the time it will be, but in the case that they're not, we need to make sure that they're in there. If so, put them in a variable. Okay, so we'll go do a lookup. Okay, so there's our little combo box. Okay, so we'll go look there. In fact, I'm going to replace. See, when you double click on something there, it's going to highlight everywhere else in your code window that it's been specified. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control H. Every time it sees that control, I'm going to replace it with this combo box. I'm going to hit replace, 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 replace. One more time. That should be it. Okay, so we've done that. And this local variable needs to have a different value in here. I'm going to call this person assigned. Okay. Now, so this code in this on select event for this button is going to be a little lengthy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a whole screenshot of this. I'm going to paste it over in the Facebook group so you guys have that. Okay. So person assigned. Okay. And then here, I'm going to replace that. I'm going to replace it there. I think that's it. Okay. And we are dealing with the users table, making sure that they're in there. And then we're going to put it right here. Okay. So now that we've got a little variable down here for this assigned to ID, we're going to say that variable dot ID. Okay. And then we also have assigned to name. Okay. And for our users table, how do we set that up? For their full name, let's go over to users and see what users we have here. Title, we're using title as the full name. Sometimes I use title for when we're dealing with people as their full name. Sometimes I'll actually create a full name column. I just needed to verify that before I used it. Okay, so there we go. Make sure we put our commas in there. All right, what else are we dealing with? Assigned to, okay, now we have department, that's in there. And we also do have an assignment. Let's see here. And just to show you what I'm looking at, guys, I'm just looking at all these fields, making sure that we're setting all this up here. Okay. Now there is a different assignment type. So we have, if you look at our application, what we've done here over in application administration, we've talked about this previously where we have assignment types. Okay. So a ticket could be assigned to more than likely a person, probably 99% of the time. But there are some cases when it needs to be assigned to a whole department, perhaps initially. Okay. I don't think I'm going to deal with that right now. That's going to be a feature that we handle later on, and we'll go back and perhaps modify all the screens that deal with that. But I just thought I'd mention that here. So for right now, we look at we probably always want to be individual. So let's go look at assignment types. Come on. Yeah, assignment types. For individual, it should always be 1 right now. Okay. Because that's exactly what we're doing. We're assigning it to a person. So of course it should be reflected in our save statement there. Select the button. No, not yet. There we go. So down here, by the way, guys, I do intend on doing a Zoom call after this. So you guys, all you guys can join the Zoom call. You guys have any questions? Now that's actually a good place to get some generic questions answered. So my first priority in a Zoom call is to answer all the questions regarding what we covered today. If we've answered all those questions, then we're going to answer any questions anybody has for the application in general or about the course in general. And if I have no more questions, I'm going to answer any questions. And I'll probably have a Zoom call up to about an hour, just so you guys have, this is supposed to be an interactive course. Okay. And yeah, so.
Ooh. Real quick. Hey guys, I'm Nicole, Darren's boss. Well, his wife. Listen, I have a special one-time offer for you. Darren is taking everything you're learning along with his Jumpstart kit and packaging it into a full-blown course along with coaching that will teach you step by step how to create this application that you could sell or implement at your job. By the way, Darren sells applications just like this for 8 to 10 grand, which, by the way, is what an app like this goes for. How much would it be worth to you to have the skills to build apps that sell? Well, once this course is finished, it's gonna sell for $9.97. But if you take action now, we're gonna let it go for half off along with his Jumpstart Kit. And you'll be able to participate in the live group coaching calls. Darren will personally teach you and coach you how to build an application like this and answer all of your questions during the live training. He will make sure you understand everything you need to know in order to create the app. But even better, if you get in now, for the first 10 people, we're going to let it go for just $250, which, by the way, is what Darren charges for 1 hour of private tutoring. So look out for the link. All right, guys, I think he's coming back. Bye.
Hey, I came back. All right. So we got the assignment type ID of 1. And so we're actually going to assign that. So it's always going to be set to 1 for now. And as we add that other feature in there to be able to assign to a whole department, we'll tackle that later. Okay. So we have assignment type ID. What else do we have here? So there's that one. We have the notes. Do we need an approval? That's a feature we're going to handle later. And we have the keep notified. We're going to handle that differently. Okay. What about currently assigned? Okay, we did. Yeah, we set that up to be if it's a new one. Okay, so by default. Now, what happens if I'm trying to think if it's been assigned around a few times? We would probably always want the very last one that was done to be set to true, and then all the other ones need to be set to false. Okay. So let's tackle that here later in the video, okay? Because it's going to be a really interesting topic, okay? Okay. So I want to bring this comment up again. Will we know who assigned the person if the reason is not given? Okay. So here for the where do we have that? Notes. Okay, we don't have the notes in there yet. Okay, so we'll have notes. So this is where I'm going to handle this, and I think I misspelled it here. There you go. And I'm going to do an if then else statement here. And also another, to answer this more directly, will we know who assigned the person? And yes, so SharePoint has a field called created, or created is a date timestamp. Created by will be the person that actually created the record. So absolutely, we could find that out by looking at that field. Okay, same thing for modified and modified by. Okay, so if they go in and if it's modified, there's always a little bit of tracking involved in there. But your question made me think of how I'm going to handle this. Okay, so if the notes, okay, this little control here, text, if the length of it is greater than 0, we'll use it. Okay, but I also like to do trims because I don't want somebody just to go in there and hit a space. Okay, trim. And you could say, well, maybe we should have check to make sure the length in there is more than 5 characters or 20 characters. You could change that here if you want to. Okay. And I'm going to indent some things over here a little bit just to make it more readable, maintainable. Okay. So if it is more than 0, of course, I'm going to do a trim on that too. Okay. Otherwise, what we're going to do, okay, is we're going to say, in parentheses, no reason given by user display name or full name. What do you think of that? The first time they do that, I don't want it to be said there that I didn't enter any information, you know. So I think that's a cool little feature that Bry Sunuck, you gave me the idea for. What do you guys think of that? All right, so we've got yeah, our notes needs approval, keep notify, currently assigned. I think we're good. I think we're good now, guys. All right, so let's take a look here and let's do an assignment. Okay, right now I can't click on the save button. Nothing. It looks like Ruben is selected, but really he was just the guy that was suggested. But I'm gonna set this to Darren. Now I can actually hit the save. Let's cross our fingers. Let's hopefully that all of our code works here. Okay, there you go. All right. Now, this is actually picking up the .title. What we want is the assigned to name. Okay, so there's that. Now we need to have another field here. Let's create another header here. Heading. I'm going to copy and paste it. Okay, then over the tree view, I'm going to go into that newly added label. Within the container. Okay, grab the name of that. For X, I'm going to say the X of the other label heading, okay, that is currently right underneath that label. It's X plus its width. I don't want that _1. Okay, there we go. And for person assigned, this will be person assigned. You know, another thought I had for a great feature for this, I was thinking about like notes. Okay, so somebody was assigned. What if they want to leave notes? Well, they have an add note thing here, right? Okay, this is a little weird. So this just made me think of something else that needs to happen, which is that little text box there. There is a grouping here that we need to have. Let's go find it. The add note group. Okay, so I'm going to put that on top. There you go. Wouldn't it be nice to know whenever somebody leaves a note that it was sort of attached to whoever, where the assignment was, you know? So you could go into an assignment and say, well, where are all the notes that were added to a ticket while that person was assigned? Okay. So for example, let's zoom out a little bit. Over here for request notes, let's add a new field in there. Where is it? Very good. And we'll add a column here. We'll call it assignment ID. Would be a great column to have in there. Okay. And what that is if I drag, I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing here. Drag this little ID and put up here to assignment ID. See that? That'll be a one-to-many. So before we've talked about our notes here on the screen, having like parent and child notes, well, you could also have that associated with who was assigned or what the assignment was for those individual notes. So we can have like a completely different reporting screen and have all kinds of really cool stuff being displayed, but we need to capture that data. Okay. So whenever we save that note, okay, well, first of all, we need this request notes. We need to add that column in there, assignment ID. Request notes, and we will say Good. So that's in there. Assignment notes. So now I'll have that. And whenever the save notes is selected, we need to go grab that. Okay. Now, probably a good thing to do for request. We have assignment ID. Okay. So that will have the assignment there. Okay. So we could actually grab that. Okay. So now, assignment ID. You can reference loc record assignment assigned to ID. All right. So that will be updated. Okay. So now when we do a save, we add a new assignment. I think that we should have a new context variable that holds the new assignment ID. Do that. Okay. And at this stage of the game, we don't know the ID yet. Okay. Okay. So let's create an update context. And we'll call this loc. Right. Assignment ID. Okay. Whenever you do a patch, do you guys realize that the patch function will actually give you a reference to that record that was just patched? Okay. So what we could say, yeah, Gerald says assignment ID is really the same thing as assigned to ID. They seem like two different things, but I could be wrong. Just checking. Yeah. So what we have, so we have a foreign key up here, assignment ID. Over here, it's called ID. So every single table has got a little ID in it. So that's always the primary key. So yeah, we could. So we have assigned to, and you said assignment ID. Do we have an assignment ID over here? No. Okay. So yes, when we create a new assignment, that becomes the current assignment, okay, reflected in this little ID of the one that we just added. We need to get that new ID over here in assignment ID. And to this field as well. Now, a case could be made, well, shouldn't those two columns, the assigned to ID and this assignment ID, shouldn't those be the same? It doesn't matter so much, but I would say yes. You want to keep things as consistent as possible. Does that name make sense in either context? Okay. Well, if you think about it, in the request table, we can have a lot of different assignments, but we only want the one that is the current assignment to be in there. Now, for the notes, we don't want the current assignment to be put in there. We want whatever the assignment was in history when that note was put in. Okay. So if anything, if we should change up the names over there in requests, we could call it the current one. But it's always gonna hold just one number, so it's almost a given. But I appreciate you bringing that up so I could explain that. That's great. I wouldn't have thought to sort of go into that. So thank you. All right. So we've got okay. So I'm going to do an update contacts. I have a new context variable. Just patched assignment. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to it's over, do this. Everything over. Okay, so whenever we patch this new assignment, we're going to put that into this variable here. Okay, but I only want to update the assignment for the current record is if this was a new one, because we could go in and modify something in the past. For example, if I didn't enter anything and then I put in this, no reason was given by Darren. It was like, oh, I don't want any record of that. So you can go back and update it, but you wouldn't necessarily want that to be updated for whichever one is the current one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if. Okay, it might be evident. If you're a little confused, just hold on and it'll be evident here in the code. Okay, so if we do a loc new assignment record, if that's true, okay, then I want to update. That is the only case in which I want to update this. Okay, now we have this record here, just patched assignment. That ID. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, what we could do is the current assignment ID. Let's just put a little temporary label in our screen here. And let's say this variable is going to hold loc record dot assign to ID. Okay. Make this width bigger. And I do this type of stuff all the time. I'm trying to understand what's going on. Add a little label here and sort of show what's going on, and then you could delete the label after you've got that question answered for yourself. Okay. So right now we have a current ticket. This is a real ticket record. Okay. See, I can't do my work. Right. It hasn't been assigned to anybody, but we should have. This should have been assigned to somebody here. Okay. And what we'll do here is we will say if that to the value of it. So if it's like an empty string, it's going to give us a value of 0. If the value is greater than 0, then we'll return loc record assigned to. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to do something else. That else is this newly assigned. Okay. And if that doesn't have anything in there, and now that I'm thinking about that, should be that should be initialized to a 0. Okay. So let's go in here, and this guy, somebody said add new. Not only do we want to initialize that, but we also want to initialize this here. Be 0. Okay. And then whenever that screen loads up, we want to initialize it there, because we might go into that screen, edit one ticket, then come out, select another ticket and come in. You don't want any residual stuff from that old ticket to be there. Okay, so I'll have it there as well. So right now it has a value of 0 between these things that have been set up here. New assignment record. That's actually what we'll do there. So the whole record. Okay. All right. So and I'm going to wrap a value around this. Okay. Okay. So now we set a new assignment. It's going to set this up for us. Okay. So let's do new. Be assigning it to myself now. Save. Okay. Now it has an ID of 2. Now let's go back over to the database here and look at all of our assignments. Request assignments. So we have 2 records. So this is our very latest one. It has a value 2. So we grab that. We have that. And look at this. No reason given by Darren Neese. Nobody will want their name with that in there. Isn't that funny? Okay. So now if I click on this one, it says resigning to myself. It has a value 2. This is so important, guys, because whenever we save our ticket down here, when we hit the save button, it needs to update that. Okay. Now, what happens if they do a new assignment and they click off? Well, we need to probably set it in both places, both save buttons, just in case they try to click off. Okay. I want to make sure that these buttons here are set up right here. Very good. All right, so that's done up. Okay. There's a local current assignment ID. So whenever we save this, we're going to go down here. When the ticket is updated, we're going to go in here and say signed to ID, and we're going to use that little variable there. Okay. So hopefully that sort of, makes sense what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep everything in sync. Okay. Now, if they make an assignment and they don't click on the save, and they click on something on the menu, we want to capture that as well. We want to make sure that is set up as well. So here in the save button, what I'm going to do, I'll just go into the save button and grab that patch statement. And I don't want to update everything else, just that one thing. So I'm going to go do this. Copy that. For this save. Okay, so instead of updating all that stuff, and we don't need that indented. There's no reason to have that indented over there. Now, I don't know why we have this closing parenthesis here. Parenthesis. So I'm going to take it out and see if I get any type of errors. Okay, let's try this again. Add new. Third assignment. Save. Okay. Make sure I don't have any errors, and I don't. That's good. Okay. All right. So we need to get our, okay, so reason assigned here, we have the X and the Y set up. We have the height. Well, you know, for the height, we want that to be set up as, you know, this little shape here. Let's go for height. Okay. What about the width? We want the width to be set right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the shape.width. Then we'll subtract self.x. Yeah, that gives us a good width there. Okay. Now down here, I'm going to create a new label. I'm going to copy and paste. Okay. I'm going to go up and grab the name of this little label header. We'll find that. Okay, very good. For X, I'm going to say that heading.x, and I'll subtract the parent.x, which is the gallery's X. Oh yeah, so got maybe we should change the gallery order to see first the last assignment. Absolutely, and that's actually exactly how I was going to have all this set up. I just haven't got there yet, but thanks for bringing that up. Don't let me forget, please. Okay, so we have an assignment here. Let's go. Let's say reason. Or is it notes? Yeah, we actually called it notes in the back end of the database. Okay, very good. So yeah, not only that, so got, but we're now looking at all of the assignments for all the tickets that are out there. It just so happens to be this is the only one that has anything. So we actually need to filter this based on, let's go over to our database here. We're looking at all the notes, but we need to go look at a request ID, okay, to filter that. Request ID equals our loc record .id, okay? All the assignments just for this ticket, okay? And then we need to sort based on modified. We could do that. Or when they were last added. The last added would probably be best because we could go back and modify something like the reason assigned. So I'm going to say created. That's going to be best. And then this currently assigned, I want to have a little indication that something is the current one. Let's go and look at another screen where we've got a little check mark or something. I know we've got that over in application administration. We click on one of these guys. You see this little active thing. So what we could do is just go in here and click on it and we'll copy and snag it. Okay. Copy that. Okay. I don't want to go in there just yet. Let's see. Click inside this gallery. I'll paste it in there. And let's deal with these errors here. Is active. What do we call it? We called it currently assigned. Okay. Now you notice for each of these rows, they're all currently assigned. So we need to sort of change that. Okay. I don't like how it's right up against there. So what we need to do, gee whiz, where? I'm having a hard time finding things. So I'm going to start collapsing these. Okay. A lot of screens that are open there. I'm going to click on it. Very good. Here we go. Looking for the X. Okay. And I'm going to say parent.template with minus self.width. All right, there you go. And I'll subtract maybe 60. Oh, that was the X. The width. Okay. Subtract 60. That's good. Now I'm going to copy and paste that header. Okay. And we want to add in there _1. _1. And we'll say current. Where is that? Okay. There's the X. The width is, yeah. Okay, there you go. For the width here, I'll probably make this 100. There we go. And then make this not so wide. I'll just enter in a static number here. 600, 700, 800, 750. Looks good. All right, and then for the top one here for this width, maybe 160. Or we could say the rectangle for the whole thing. Let's do that. And we called it what? Shape? Yeah, there we go. It'll be shape.width. Subtract self.x. I feel like we need a little more. I'll just manually move it there. Okay. And I'll set that up to be on the right side with the right padding of 15. Okay. Try to make this look good here. Be right in the middle. We also want to keep in mind that we'll have a scroll bar there to the side. So for these little this little check mark here, we want to reference that heading. Okay. So instead of that, I'm going to comment that out. X. Parent.x. Yeah. And then I want to add at labels width. Divide that by 2. That should right there in the middle. And then we also want to subtract our self.width divided by 2. So that should be perfectly centered. Okay. Which one is the current? So right now they're all 3 marked as current. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we have our latest ones up at the top. You know, what would be nice to know is when it was assigned. We should probably add that at some point. Okay. And that actually does seem really important. But whenever I save, I want to go through here. Okay. And what I want to do right before we add okay. If this is a new one. Okay. If it's a new record assignment, I want to do like a bulk update on all the other ones and set them to false. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say update if. Okay, we're going to do an update here. That's our data source. If you guys are familiar with update if, it's a lot like a patch statement, but you're going to update perhaps more than one. Okay. So the second item is the condition. Okay. So what we're looking for is if we look at our filter statement here, it's going to be where the request ID lines up right there. Okay. Update all of those. And then we'll have the curly braces to specify exactly what we want to update. And what we want to say is current, we call it currently assigned. So that's a false. Okay. So let's try that out. Let's see if that works. Add new. Fourth. Look at that. Now, why isn't that sorting the way we want? I think it's because the default is ascending. We need to specify descending. We always want the most updated, the newest one to be at the top. Okay. And so if we did things right, the one at the top should always be the one that's got that little check mark there. What do you guys think? All right, so we got that. No reason given. Okay, so this is looking good. Now, I think to just keep things simple at this point for this Darren Neese assigned to name, I think I want to put the date and the time right here to the side. Okay, so what happens if I were to, now this X is set up to be that shape. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this one. Okay. And then for this new one, label ticket assignment 3. Okay, this one right here, instead of person assigned, this is going to be when. Okay, so that's going to be in there when. And then this one will be based on that one. Okay, so we'll go in there and we'll say for this third one, the X, that plus the width of it. Okay. So I'll grab that one. And then for the number 1, its X will be plus width. And this width, I'm going to make more like 120. I'm hoping to keep that a little not so wide. Okay. When person assigned, reason assigned. Okay. It does make it a little more complex. So Gat said, yeah. All right, cool. Thanks. Yeah, maybe you're saying yeah to the ordering that I did of the descending. And by the way, if any of you guys want to be brought in on these live streams, it would be great to have one or two of you in here sort of talking to me as I'm doing this. So just a thought. Of course, you'll have that in the Zoom call here later. But okay, so we've got the win. Okay, so also I want to do a copy and paste here. Okay, so we've got that. The person assigned. Okay, for this will be that. Okay. And then for the width, it will be set up for that guy there. Okay, there we go. And then for this when, we'll say create it. I like that. Hello from New Jersey. Hi, T. Lou. Got in late. Hey, no worries. Just let you guys know this. You can always watch it later. And if you come in late, you can always rewind to the very beginning and start watching. Of course, you won't be live at that point, but you could speed me up a little bit. So if you're 5 or 10 minutes late, that might help. But if you're, this far and late, maybe not so much, but you can always watch it later. And guys, I respond to all comments. So even if I made a video a year ago, and you leave a comment, I read and respond to all comments. So don't feel like if you're in late. So Q6 says just curious, so maybe you've got something else to say after that. Okay, so let's try to finish this up here, guys. We got the when we were assigned. Okay, very good. We get the person assigned. Okay, and that's tied into this. We got the, maybe we don't want this to be so wide. Okay. And for the left there, we'll make that to be like 5. Same thing here, 5. Okay. Okay, I'm sort of liking this. Now, the width of that one needs to be tied to this heading. We had that set up right. Okay. And let's set this up. Just in case I mess that up, I'm going to copy that to the clipboard. And then here, I'm going to say, okay. And we did mess up the height, so I'm going to repaste that in there. Do you think that using a horizontal gallery or a horizontal container would be better for the headers instead of manually calculating the X and Y? something somebody asked me is like, shouldn't that be a component? And you could make the case for that. I think it might get complicated in other ways. But to answer your question, yes, you could do that. We actually do that for the tabs at the top. So maybe that's something I'll think about. Maybe you might just change my mind on how I do that in the future. Um, but a lot of times inside the gallery, I tie the X and the width and things to what's in those headers. So then how would I reference what's in there? We'd almost need like a table of values for your headings. Um, so maybe not. That's something perhaps I'll think about and maybe revisit. Okay, but I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, and greetings from Chile. All right, is it called Chile or Chile? I think it's Chile, perhaps. Oh, I missed Q's previous comment. Okay. Okay, so that was okay. So there you go. Yeah, so I answer that now. Hello from New Jersey. Okay. And also it'd be great if gallery selected item is the current. Okay, so the issue there is I could go in, see no reason given. If as a user I say, oh, I don't want to go down as the guy that didn't enter anything. I'll say, okay, here's the reason. Okay, and I update that. I should update. See, what's nice that there's a selected, I can select something, is I can select a record, change something, hit save. Okay, so that's why I sort of want the selected to be different from that. I mean, we have a visual indication here. We can use a different color to show which one is the current one. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate all these comments, guys. This is great stuff. Okay. All right. So this little current assignment thing, I don't know that I want to see that all the time. So I'm going to change the visible to var show debugging. So only when we're in the debug mode do I want to see that. Of course, we've got a lot of debug stuff that shows up when we select that. Okay. I'm feeling really good about this, guys. Is there anything else that we need to do to this? Because I think we've got a good now. Eventually, we need to send off emails and such. Okay, but I think this is a good point to sort of leave off. Just realize that I am going to do a Zoom call. I'm going to paste that Zoom call information in the Facebook group. So make sure you're in the Facebook group. If you're not in the Facebook group, the links are in the description below of how to fill out a student intake form that will get you into that Facebook group. And I'll see you guys on the other side. Now I'll set up that Zoom call probably about, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes after this, just to give everybody a break. And we'll come in fresh and answer any questions, anything then. Okay, guys? I appreciate it.
Guys, for some reason, YouTube thinks you're going to like this video next. Let's see if they're right. Or you can select this playlist, which I've selected for you based on the content you're currently watching. Guys, got to hurry. Click one of them. Otherwise, YouTube's going to autoplay some other video, which you probably don't want. Thanks.